Hello everyone. So in this video lecture, we're going to talk more about, DAOs, steps for launching, and then some other concepts with respect to DAO, right? So let's just dive right in. And when I come to steps for launching a DAO, there are three major steps that we're going to cover, which starts with smart contract creation, goes up to funding, and then deployment. So let's just go through each step one by one. Before a DAO, it actually comes to life. It has to move through three core stages, starting with the creation, then funding, and then finally the deployment. So each of these steps, they lay a critical layer of trust, they lay a critical layer of decentralization, community control. So let's just walk through it. Now, starting with smart contract creation. On slide, first, a developer or group of developers must create the smart contract behind the DAO. After launch, they can only change the rules set by these contracts through the governance system. That means they must extensively test the contracts to ensure they don't overlook important details. So the first step, that is your smart contract creation, is actually the rule book of the DAO. So developers, they're writing the smart contracts that define how the DAO is going to operate, how the DAO is going to behave, and how voting is going to work, and what the organization can do, cannot do. And then comes the important part. Once the DAO is launched, you cannot change the rules whenever you want or whichever rules you want. Any change has to go then through the community governance. That is to say, whosoever has the token, if it's a token based permission system, then they are the right person to actually give their views if they want to go with those changes or not go with those changes. So hence, before you're launching a DAO, before you're preparing for the first step to launch a DAO, you need to have all your rules sorted out. So that is why the stage, requires extreme precision, rigorous testing, because a small bug can turn into a huge vulnerability later, right? So before anything goes live, the contract must be audited, must be tested, and retested to ensure every scenario is covered. Because once it is already deployed, then it has to go through the governance acceptance. Everybody who has a token is the right person to actually say yes or no, they want the change. Then coming to next, it comes to funding. On slide, after the smart contracts have been created, the DAO needs to determine a way to receive funding and how to enact governance. More often than not, tokens are sold to raise funds. These tokens give holders the voting rights. So, once the smart contracts, they're solid, the DAO now needs the fuel. And what is the fuel? The fuel is funding. DAOs, they typically raise the capital by issuing governance tokens. Now, what are governance tokens? So if any person has a token, he or she has the right to participate in the governance of the DAO. So when people, they actually buy these tokens, they're not just funding the project, they are earning a voice in the DAO's decisions. Then these tokens become the foundation of the DAO's governance model. Whoever holds tokens can vote, they can propose changes, they can participate in each and every decision that is happening in the DAO. So this stage, it is actually both fundraising and power distribution, setting up who gets to vote and how the community is going to govern itself. Then coming to the final step of deployment. Once everything is set up, now the DAO needs to be deployed on the blockchain. From this point on, stakeholders decide on the future of the organization. The organization's creators, those who wrote the smart contracts, no longer influence the project any more than other stakeholders. So your final step now is deployment. The moment the DAO officially goes live on the blockchain. And from this point on forward, control shifts from the creators to the community. And that is when we say that the DAO is decentralized. There's not a community governing it now. It is controlled by everyone who has a token, who has the governance token, rather, I'd say, right? So the creators, they actually just become another set of participants holding the same rights as anybody else does in the community. And this is where your DAO, it gets deployed, it gets launched, it becomes truly decentralized. Decisions are now made by the entire community, votes determine outcomes, and the organization evolves based on the collective direction and not just the centralized authority. Coming to the DAO's examples, the first one, Dash. Now, Dash is what? Dash is a cryptocurrency, right? It is a very strong example of the decentralized autonomous organization, DAO. Its governance, Dash governance, Dash budgeting system are fully community driven. Masternode holders actually vote on proposals and collectively decide how funds are allocated, making Dash one of the earliest real world DAOs. Then coming to a cause is like charitable DAOs, right? Just imagine a global charity where anyone can send funds, anyone can send gifts, and it's all going into a transparent treasury, right? And members can exactly vote on how these funds now need to be used up, right? So this ensures fairness, accountability, global participation, transparency. Then consultant organization, or rather I would say it's a freelancer collectives. DAOs can also power a network of freelancers or contractors. Members can pool resources for things like uh, office spaces, I would say, software tools, marketing. Everyone shares the benefits and decisions are made collectively, not by any single manager or not by any single CEO. Then finally, adventures and awards. So it is possible to make an endeavor store that pools speculation capital and decisions on days to back. Reimbursed cash could later be rearranged among DAO individuals. What it says is a community can actually come together to create an investment fund, pool capital, and vote on which projects to support. If the investments it actually generate returns, the profits can be distributed back to the DAO members. So this transforms venture capital from exclusive to community owned, right? So above were all the examples that I guess, in a way or two made you feel that how DAOs, can be so flexible, ranging from digital currencies, going up to charities, going up to freelancer organizations, to your investment funds, everything, right? The potential applications, they're enormous for DAO. Then first thing comes, how do they work? So far we have been used to using people to store information. If I want to know how much does hiring a new person would cost my company, I go to somebody in the HR and expect them to give me an answer. If I want to know how much money, how much fund it is going to take to get the movement costs repaid, there's a separate person somewhere in the accounting who's responsible to help me with an answer. But in DAO, what happens? This entire structure is replaced by code. All these workflows, approvals, paychecks, payouts, permissions, rules, these are all written into smart contracts. So instead of a person being responsible, instead of a person making decisions, the code is going to execute them. And it gets, the code gets to execute them automatically because it's a smart contract. If a condition implying all of that is true, there's nothing that can stop the smart contract from running, right? So what does this do? It reduces delays, it minimizes, actually nullifies human error, builds trust because the rules cannot be changed secretly. But despite all of this, the final control still remains with whom? Still remains with the people, still remains with the shareholders that we call in DAO the token holders, the governance token holders. The main share of what has to be put into is actually with them. And that is same like in the traditional organizations, right? Traditional corporations, they have voting rights, and that is what happens here. Shareholders still have those voting rights, and shareholders, the people that we call in DAO as token holders, the governance token holders, right? So the general idea is just to bring the benefits of the blockchain technology to management. Because what we know is that when we're using blockchain, the big advantage with that is the blockchain brings immutability, brings transparency, brings precision, all these to the table. Every rule is clear, and once it's written inside the ledger, there is nothing that can change it, right? Everything is open for anyone to verify. So this strong consistency, it makes DAOs reliable partners. There's no ambiguity, there's no hidden decision making, and finally, because a DAO has no central authority controlling it, it's much harder to build pressure. Who will you build pressure on? All the nodes. That's not possible. It's practically not possible. So there's no single point of failure, no CEO to manipulate, and no office to raid. Plus, anyone who wants to keep a check or anyone who wants to verify the company can do that because it's on blockchain. Everything is there, nothing can be hidden from there, right? So, the organization is actually collectively controlled by all its members, making it resilient, making it decentralized, and globally accessible. Then we come to the next. We have DAO's memberships. DAO's membership models, we have two models for the membership. The first one goes by the token based membership, and the another one goes by share based membership. So, token based membership, we have been reading about it, we've been talking about it since since this point. What it says is that this model is usually completely permissionless, right? Anyone can become a member simply by acquiring the governance token, and that token you can either buy it, because we're also raising funds selling those tokens. You can buy it on a decentralized exchange, or also by earning it. How can you earn it? By completing the work, or providing liquidity. Just holding the token gives you the rights, gives you voting rights. This model is ideal for large, open, or decentralized protocols. For example, we have MakerDAO's token. Now, MakerDAO uses the token MKR. Now, this token MKR, it's widely applicable, widely available, I would say, on decentralized exchanges, decentralized trades. So, anybody can become tied up with having cast a ballot power on the Makers Convention's future. Are you getting it? So anyone can buy the token and instantly participate in the governance, voting on the future of the MakerDAO's protocol. Second, it comes to the share-based membership. Now you have to give a little more attention here. So what is about the share-based membership? Share-based membership is slightly more permissioned. To join it, you usually need to submit a proposal to the DAO. Often in these cases, you have to offer something of value. Let's say you have to offer funds, you have to order skills, you have to offer work. If the community actually thinks that your offering is of any use to them, so it approves it. And then you're granted shares, which represent voting power and ownership. So members can also exit at any time and withdraw their proportional share of the treasury. This model works best for tight-knit, human-focused groups like charities, worker collectives, or investment clubs. A great example for this is MolochDAO, MolochDAO. It funds Ethereum ecosystem projects, but you can't just buy your way in. It's not a token that you can just buy and get into the governance. No, you need to submit a proposal, and the members evaluate then whether you have the important mastery and funded to make educated decisions about possible grants and about the possible grantees. So if you hold it, then you are the right person to, if your proposal it gets approved of, then you're the right person to have a vote in the decisions, in the upcoming decisions that the entire community is going to take. Are you getting that? Then coming to Ethereum and DAOs. So Ethereum, it is the ideal establishment for DAOs, and for what reasons, that we're going to study. So Ethereum's own agreement is conveyed and set up enough for associations to trust the organization. So first, what I have to say is Ethereum is highly, decentralized in itself. It is decentralized plus it is secure. Its consensus mechanism is robust and widely trusted, which gives organizations a confidence that, okay, if the DAO is run on Ethereum and Ethereum itself is robust, Ethereum itself is secure, the DAO is going to be secure, right? So it gives your organizations a guaranteed trust that if something is built on Ethereum, then they're building up on a network that won't easily fall or be controlled by any single party. Second, the agreement code can't be changed once live, even by its proprietors. This permits the DAO to run by the principles it was modified with. So second thing is smart contracts on Ethereum are immutable once deployed. Once deployed, you cannot make changes. Not even the original developers can change the code after it goes live. So this gives an assurance that a DAO that is running on Ethereum is actually running according to the rules it was programmed with, creating trust, transparency, and predictable governance. Third, agreements can send or get reserves. Without this, there is a need for a believed delegate to oversee a bunch of reserves. So Ethereum smart contracts, they can hold, they can send, and they can receive funds. So this removes the need for having any delegate, any middleman, any trusted custodian to manage the DAO's treasury. Every financial action is automated and governed entirely by code and community voting. Then coming to the last point, the Ethereum people group has demonstrated to be more synergistic than cutthroat, taking into consideration best practices and emotionally supportive networks to arise rapidly. So what it has to say that Ethereum has one of the most collaborative, I would say, most supportive community in the blockchain ecosystem. Developers there are constantly sharing best practices, tools, audits, and frameworks. So this cooperative culture, helps DAOs evolve quickly, because if everybody is actually laid up their mind for a shared goal, you're going to achieve that shared goal way sooner. So this cooperative culture helps DAOs evolve quickly, stay secure, and adopt the industry's highest standards. Together, these advantages make Ethereum the most reliable, the most transparent, and community driven platform for launching and operating DAOs. Coming to the advantages part, decentralization, community driven, and principal agent dilemma. So, decentralization, we all know that. A DAO isn't driven by one leader, isn't driven by a CEO, isn't driven by a board. Instead, your authority is distributed among all the participants, right? Then, second, they're truly community driven, right? DAOs allow people from anywhere in the world to come together to collaborate on a shared vision. Geography, hierarchy, gatekeeping, it does not matter when you talk about the DAO. Anyone with the right token or the contribution can participate, vote, and help shape the project. Third, principal agent dilemma. DAOs help solving the principal agent dilemma. In traditional organizations, the principals, they're like the shareholders, they depend on the agents like CEOs or managers to act in their best interest. But agents, they often have their own priorities. Your CEOs, your managers, they have their own priorities, which can lead to conflict between the shareholders and between your CEOs or managers, which leads to misaligned incentives. But DAO eliminates this gap. Since decisions are made collectively and transparently, principals don't have to trust an intermediary. Everyone works as part of the same goal, part of the same group, guided by aligned incentives and governed by code rather than a personal motive. So, your principal agent dilemma is well kicked out of the scenario when we talk about the DAO. Then, yeah, if you have pros, you have cons. While they may offer many advantages, there are a lot of disadvantages to talk about. First thing is security risks. A DAO can technically be launched with very little code, but running it securely is completely different matter. A proper DAO relies on a large and complex tech stack, smart contracts, treasury management tools, voting systems, and all more. So maintaining top level security here, it gets expensive. It also wants a deep technical expertise. Second, slow decision making. With DAO scaling, there comes an issue of getting everyone to vote on proposals in a timely manner, and then with different time zones, investor priorities, keeping DAO participants up to date can be challenging. Then you have the third one that goes by the bike shedding effect. So there is a Parkinson's law of triviality. Triviality, yes. that suggests that people tend to spend too much time debating minor, easy to understand issues while ignoring the complex, the important ones. And that is what is happening in DAOs too. Members may spend hours arguing over trivial matters, but when it comes to the important ones, there's nobody, right? Because you're spending too much time, too much resources on talking about the trivial matters, and it obviously is going to lead to the inefficient use of time, to reduce productivity, and finally, it is going to have the legal uncertainty, right? Are you getting that? Because if you're putting so much time, so much of your brains into the trivial issues, then how are you going to look upon the very important ones? Then coming to no legitimate structure for segregating DAOs. DAOs can be circulated across different locales and there's no legitimate structure for them. Any lawful issues that might emerge will probably require those required to manage various territorial laws in a convoluted fight. So what happens is DAOs can operate across many regions, but there is no unified legal framework governing them. So this creates complications when disputes arise as different jurisdictions, different areas jurisdiction, different regions jurisdiction may have different laws. A key example occurred in 2017 when the US Securities and Exchange Commission ruled that the Dow had sold securities without authorization, violating US securities laws. Cases like this actually show that how unclear, how complicated the legal environment still is for DAOs because there's no unified code of conduct. There's no unified laws for DAO. So, in summary, what I would like to say, I will just sum up saying that while DAOs are powerful, they come with real operational legal governance challenges that must be carefully managed before you are launching up a DAO. You need to take care of all of these without you're actually launching a DAO in the real world. So with this, I guess we're done with it. And if you have any concerns, any doubts, any reclarifications that you need, I'll be most happy to assist you with those. But just let me know about those in the comment section. Make judicious use of the comment section, I'd say. With this, I shall be taking your leave. Thank you. Bye-bye.